So, been looking at the analytics a little bit, noticing there's people watching. That's cool. Not a lot of subscribing, but watching, oddly enough. Um, so if you are watching or listening, it's more like it's not really much video, is there? Go ahead and subscribe because I'm gonna keep going. Just gonna keep doing this stupid shit. I find it cathartic. I also thought I was gonna mostly emphasize the angst, which is, usually I'm filled with tons of that. But, there's other subjects that I can talk about, but I think the emphasis should be the schizoid. Because from what I've been told by a few individuals already on different platforms, is that or schizoids don't exactly have a lot of videos or channels or any of that. I wonder why. But, so it might be helpful to place the emphasis on that. But I'm sure I'll get annoyed or irritable at some point during most of my recordings. It's just the way it is. When you vent, it's what I find, like I said, cathartic about it. And leave comments. If you're bothering to listen to this entire recording, leave a comment. Give me your opinion. Tell me what the fuck it is you think about what I'm saying. If it's cringe, or if you agree, or if you have a story that's similar, or an experience that's similar, or you deal with another type of personality disorder that you'd like to express your opinion on, or your perspective on. That's helpful. It's useful, because then I could get some ideas on what to talk about next. Or, it might just trigger a little fucking... My synapses will fire up in there with some semblance of excitement, and then I'll have something more to muse on. But in any case, today I wanted to discuss the idea of masking. Masking is interesting. Somebody left a comment asking me to talk about it, so I figure why not? There's probably not a lot of... I'm sure there's some videos where they talk about the clinical action, but not the first-hand experience of doing so. So not all schizoids or people with, similar personality disorders mask very much. It just kind of depends. Masking is the act in which you create a false persona to present to people in social situations that is essentially mostly not you. It might be an extension of a version that you wish you would be, because it makes life easier, but it's not actually you. It's you're either doing an act, or you're kind of playing up this idea of what you believe a person should be, or a person's supposed to be, or what makes a person likable, or more enjoyable to be around. So then you kind of play all that up. You study what other people do, even if you don't understand why they do it, and then you mimic. It's really mimicry of some kind. It's just mimicry. You're just absorbing their mannerisms, their behaviors, how they respond to specific types of behaviors you're displaying, like you're emoting. And then over time, over the course of years of doing this, you kind of learn to navigate the social norms, or the manners in which you can get what you want, or get the responses that are required for practical reasons, usually. And then you just kind of keep that going. Unfortunately, in some cases, and that is in my case as well, I wasn't aware I was doing it for a very long time because, well, as I was younger and I was disconnected from the people around me and things around me, and more interested in things than people in every shape and form of my life. Um, it became a problem, obviously, because I would lose friends, or when I was younger, elementary school even, or I would say things that were without tact, or I would be insensitive and thus get myself in trouble. I would get bullied because, my behavior was eccentric. My interest in things was low, that, involved other people. So, kind of that loner kid reading books all the time or playing on his Game Boy or whatever. But, I guess over time, some sense of wanting to belong when I was younger, because, that's how you got friends to play games with you. That's how you got friends to talk to you about the things you like. I think that was my main motivator growing up, is that I wanted people to discuss things with, or experience things with, say, such as watching films or playing video games together. I wasn't interested in them at all. I was interested in the act or the thing associated to the act. And so it allowed me to enjoy those things a bit more when other people were involved. But it's almost as if, like, I just needed them to be like CPUs that just kind of played with me, like games or whatever. I didn't really have any interest in them as like friends or um, anything beyond that. They were useful for providing me entertainment. As cruel and weird as that sounds, but that's just how it was. And so I think over the years I learned how to befriend people, to be funny, I was always kind of the class clown. I was always the clever kid that would help other kids, get by on something they can't figure out at school, or like homework, or I'd let them copy my homework and things like that. Because, when you're this introverted, you tend to do okay at school because, you don't mind reading and learning. But I did that for a very long time, and obviously when I was younger, I had no idea what was wrong with me. Well, what I had. The only thing that I was diagnosed with when I was younger was ADD. So I was always losing focus all the time. I got in trouble for talking too much in class, being distracted, not paying attention in class, but my grades rarely suffered because I somehow managed to keep track of everything I needed to learn, but always be distracted all the time. Usually by just whatever it is I was thinking about or interested in at the time. It's probably what generally distracted me. Years go by, I get to high school. Around junior, senior year, I would say the math started deteriorating, started kind of going bananas, because I didn't know what felt real and what didn't. And it's a tumultuous part of everyone's life, those late teen years, the mid-teens, 16, 17, 18. That's some of the crazy parts, of development. And when all that started mixing into the fact that I was masking consistently, daily, without really realizing at that point what I was doing, it took quite a toll on my psyche. It took quite a toll on my energy levels, my motivation, my interests, a lot of stuff. I started becoming more escapist. I started secluding myself. I began to despise and resent the people around me and any social norms that I was supposed to partake in. I became more reclusive and angrier Um, and of course, at the time, no one really understood what was wrong with me, my parents or anyone else. They just thought I was going through a phase. Um, I was that kid in high school that, rumors would start about because he would just be in a corner somewhere or not talk to anyone, or if he did talk to people, it'd be like with the school weirdos and things like that. Um, which I probably hung out with them because they didn't really require much attention from me, which is nice. Once I got into my 20s, um, though I had a girlfriend prior to that in high school, that was a weird relationship. Um, I didn't really meet the love of my life until my 20s. And, but then the masking kind of restarted, like kicked back in, because I looked at my past and saw, oh man, that kid was kind of pathetic and weird. I need to do something about this. I need to, transform myself into a more acceptable type of person so that I can move on with my life and things like that. And again, at this point, never been diagnosed. I didn't know what was going on. So whenever I would go to events, parties, get-togethers, things like that, always exhausted. I made people laugh. I would say things that are interesting, I guess, things like that, but always by the end exhausted, and I would get extremely depressed. And that was kind of the ongoing cycle. I would socialize, I would become tired, it would make me depressed and irritable. I didn't understand why. I would get depressed and irritable about the fact that I got depressed and irritable because I figured I was doing the steps, I was doing the things that were normal, which was socializing and going to work and socializing with your coworkers and making jokes and having fun with them. Then making jokes and entertaining the customers and things like that. I thought all this is me being myself. None of that was me. Zero of that was me. Because the only time I was actually being myself is when I was by myself. And on occasion, the real me would kind of seep out. When in more intimate locales, would say my partner, with my now wife. But in that situation, yes, I felt a little more at ease, and so sometimes it would slip out, and so I could be a little more honest about who and what I was. But even then, I didn't understand who or what I was. I just thought I was this really jaded, angry, kind of depressed guy that was trying not to be that. And I thought I had to get over that. I thought it was something wrong with me that I was struggling with, that I needed to surpass in order to achieve my goal of always being the way I was, say, at work or around others. I thought there was something dysfunctional with me. That's how I saw it, as a very negative thing. I think part of that caused me an extreme amount of anxiety. And so there was a few years in my life, my mid-20s, in which I suffered extreme levels of anxiety, panic attacks on a consistent basis. Probably a psychotic break or two. It wasn't fun. But yet I persisted. I went to college. I held a job. I was, doing a lot of the things that are required of a person. And yet I was miserable and anxious and so on. I went to therapy for the anxiety for quite a while, took some medications. The anxiety subsided, but the depression never did. And the exhaustion and the frustration, the angst, didn't subside. Because I always felt like I couldn't understand people. And all I could do was mimic what people are in order to navigate them. But it was tiresome. It drained me of my life to do that. And it's only the more recent parts of my life that I've been properly diagnosed and understand what and who I am. And it's helping me, but it's also difficult because understanding it, coming to terms with it, makes you kind of go at war with yourself internally, because you're trying to decide what it is you want and who you are, and not who you pretended to be for decades. And that's a struggle in and of itself. And then when you discover more about who you are, it becomes more difficult to see an acceptable way of living in such a terrible, terrible piece of shit world. So, and look, I'm not saying that there's no validating. No, I'm validating. There's no ups. It's all downs, but it's mostly downs. It's mostly pretty much just trash. The world we currently live in, for a variety of reasons, at least to me. To other people, to the neurotypical, it's manageable probably for a variety of reasons. Like, they can focus on their social relationships, they can focus on their distractions, whatever it is that they're capable of doing, or blocking out, or remain unbothered by, because they understand, because the whole emotionally driven action type idea. I feel like they can manage it in that sense. But to me, like, whether local or on a meta scale, just the way humans interact just fucks me up, because I don't get it, and it seems so irrational and violent and insane to me. The actions we humans take as a society, or the things they validate, the things that they uphold, and things that they hold dear, sometimes just seem so hypocritical and sometimes downright malicious. But whatever, that's something else. Masking. So, I'm fairly good at it. As I explained, I had years of practice. So this person you're hearing right now, this is not what they generally get. More so now, because like I said, I've come into terms with who I am, and not who I thought I was. And it's been beneficial in that sense. Definitely less energy draining. I have more energy now because I can conserve it. So I can do things like this, which I would have never done before, because I would have thought was pointless, or I didn't have the energy to do. But, smiling, laughing, joking. When I do it, well, not long ago, I had gone out with a friend, and I kind of just did it in front of them. Like, oh, look, I'm going to do this with this person, and it's not going to seem like the person you're talking to right now, but they're going to believe what I'm doing. They're going to believe I'm a normal person, and this is because this is how normal people act, right? This is how charismatic people act. And so I did it, and yeah, generally I get away with it. The person has no fucking clue that it's all bullshit. I compliment their clothing, or their interests, or their something. I compliment something. I discuss something that I'm completely uninterested in with them, but convince them that I am interested. I make them feel at ease. I sometimes get, things out of them. Like, like help or discount, or make them go out of their way for me to do something. A lot of the jobs I held were merchandise or sales. I would be very good at selling to people, convincing them they needed things, or that things were helpful, or that I was the right guy to give them the advice they needed to make a good purchase. Shit like that. It all worked, usually. Um, and I guess it's because of that. It's all those years of masking. I kind of understand human behavior. I understand what they react to, what they retract to. Um, it taught me how to manipulate people. But I don't do it in any kind of malicious way, because I'm generally not interested in them enough to want to. But when it was your job, it would work. You get top sales, top this, top that. At school, at the university, masking, very useful. In the politics, especially. Knowing what to say it, how to kiss ass, how to manipulate the ego of your professors to make them feel good about themselves, while at the same time upholding their standards of what they perceive to be academic success or interest or questioning, whatever. It's usually when the mask would slip, because I would be more interested in, or would get frustrated because I want some kind of piece of information that they're not providing or they're not discussing, that would cause me some kind of problems or issues, especially toward the graduate years, because at that point I was just getting fed up with so much. But yeah, the whole just combination of making them think you're interesting, making them think you're interested in them, making them feel bad for you, making them feel glad for you, making them want to see you succeed, all that stuff. It works extremely well, but it was all draining. It always made me feel like shit by the end of the day. It always made me feel tired and down, and I wanted to just run away from any kind of social interaction at that point and just be secluded. Because of how just troubling and stressful the actions were. And then also during conversational situations in class where you would discuss various topics, I always had to kind of watch myself, because if you approach or broach certain subjects without emoting, without showing this mask of, oh look, I'm neurotypical like you, hello fellow kids, if you didn't do that, you would be categorized or told that you're being this or you're being that, or you're being callous, or you're being insensitive, or you're removing the agency of the historical actors, or I don't know, all kinds of stupid shit. But that I had to navigate. I had to learn that. That was different. I had to learn that through being in classes constantly, how to approach academic subjects in the context of these weird emotional wrappings that were required. Like, I had to use words like moving, and words like shocking, and words like it struck me, I found it fascinating, that, oh, it's terrible, how awful it must have been. But what choice could they have had? Shit like that. Like weird kind of emotional arguments that I would have to sometimes use. That was all masking too. And then also, I mean, emotional arguments I don't generally make, or moral arguments. I don't really like to make too much. Ethics are different, but I would have to make them in order to make my point more palatable to people that I was presenting it to. And it's not just a case in school, in university. It was also just with coworkers or everyday life. You had to, in order to make someone interested in what you were saying, you had to make it personable. You had to make it about them. You had to make it about their feelings or their emotions or their ego in some way. It sickens me. I hate it. It made me really fucking mad because I hated doing it, but that was the only way they would fucking listen. They wouldn't listen unless you did those things. They would either become uninterested or think that you're elaborating too much on something, or you're getting stuck on details that don't matter to them, or just you seemed cold and aloof or robotic or something like that. Your arguments seem stale. It's like stupid words like that they would use, or or you just won't get through to people. You won't get through to them unless you cater to their feelings. Which, with me, it isn't a requirement. You don't have to cater to any of my fucking feelings in order for me to listen to an argument or point you're trying to make. You don't have to navigate my feelings. You might have to navigate my annoyance at times, if that's what you're presenting to me, like as an emotional argument. But I'm not gonna try to make you feel bad for your opinion or feel this or feel that. That's not usually my intention. If somebody's trying to sell me something, no emotional manipulation is going to work on me. I either want it or I don't want it, or I'm not interested, or show me the features. What does it do? Okay, cool. I'm not interested in that. Thank you. Goodbye. That's it. I don't need all that bullshit. I don't need you to, try to relate to me and all this fucking trash. All the stuff that I know how to do to other people that they like bugs the living shit out of me. And what's interesting about masking too is that people do it all the time, but they're pretty aware they're doing it. Like, when you're at your job, you're smiling, you're doing the whole shtick. Oh, welcome to Walmart. How are you? Oh, yes. Oh, that's a great product, sir. Blah, 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 blah. That kind of shit. Everyone does it to a point, but it's not, it's draining, but it's not something you would generally have to do outside of the workplace. Get me? Masking is something we all do to an extent for the purposes of a job or a situation, but it's not to the extent where you have to do it with your coworkers as well, with your family, with your acquaintances, with everything. That's where the schizoid starts fucking losing their goddamn mind, because it's just too much. It's too much to have to deal with. It's too much to have to constantly be aware of. Too many little trappings. When you're having a conversation with somebody that's, normal, I guess, neurotypical, there's all these little nuances of emotion and all these little, like I said, trappings. Like, you could say with a certain tone, or a certain way, or a certain this, or a certain that, or that comes off like a certain way, or that sounded sarcastic, or that was rude, or that was insulting, or that was demeaning, or that was condescending, or it's a lot. It's a lot. So navigating all that, it's like you're just on a fucking speedboat in a river full of just jagged rocks. Just fucking try not to crash into the goddamn rocks all the time. So I can imagine why some people that are schizoid are completely just avoidant or just reclusive. I get it. I was, fucking navigating those waters for years, not even knowing what the fuck I was doing, not even knowing that I was masking. That's the sad part, because, I think that's what's causing a lot of my current depression, is that I'm still trying to figure out who I am and what I created. to discern the difference between all the masking and all the and myself. That's been very difficult because there's certain situations the masking will kick in, and then I'll feel gross after. I'll be like, why the fuck did I do that? That wasn't even required. I was not in a situation in which I needed to do that, and I'll just like castigate myself because it's just be like, don't do that. That's not you. Why the fuck are you doing that? Because I'll revert back to using it, because it makes a certain situation easier or less awkward. But I'm getting to a point where I don't give a fuck about how awkward the situation is. I don't give a fuck about how weird it may be for the other person if I don't emote properly or whatever. I'm starting not to give a shit, and it feels good to not give a shit. It feels really good because I don't want to give a shit, and I don't want to drain myself catering to your needs. But I want to pick and choose who I do that for, because there are people that I love, people that I care about, that I know are not like me, but I am willing to expend that energy, navigate those waters, because they're worth it, because I believe they are worth it, because they matter to me. I don't want to do that with strangers. I don't want to do that with just acquaintances. I want to be able to say, well, accept me for what the fuck I am, or stop talking to me, because I'm not telling you what the fuck you should be. Okay? So if you don't like my responses to your emotional behavior, I'm not telling you to fucking stop being who you are. So don't tell me stop being who I am. That's the frustrating. That's the angst. And of course there's limit. There's a difference between being polite and civil and having to emote. That's a lot of people confuse. See, I can be polite and civil, and I don't find it draining at all. Where, short to the point, conversation topics. Like if say somebody approached me, right? Let me give you a situation. If somebody approached me and tried to do some small talk with me, right? I hate that shit. The easiest route would to be just kind of make up a reason about why you're busy, or oh yeah, and just nod your head and listen to the dumb shit they're saying that you're not interested in, or pretend you're interested in and kind of talk to them a little. All that stuff is just really draining, and it'll make me like irritable, especially if it goes on for an extended period. But that's masking, right? Okay. Being polite and civil without masking would be them beginning to do that, and then me saying, I'm sorry, I'm not really interested in any small talk. I prefer we didn't. Now, was that rude? Yeah, many people would say, oh, that's so rude, you shouldn't. Whatever. Was that civil? Yes. Was that polite? Yes. I said, I'm sorry. I'm not interested in having this conversation with you. If I could do that, then life would be much easier. But if you do that, it damages their ego, it damages their esteem, or they become defensive, or they think you're rude, or they get even more emotionally charged because of your behavior, or they get angry, and so then you have to deal with an even bigger fucking problem than you started with, which was just annoying small talk. Now they're wondering, what's wrong? Why are you so grumpy? Why are you so mad? What happened to you today? All this fucking stupid bullshit. Instead of them just going, oh, okay, I understand. And moving on. Move on with your fucking life. You don't need my validation of your stupid bullshit you're saying. Maybe they do. I don't know. But I don't feel like they do. I don't want to give it to them. So, and it's funny to me because if I approach somebody with a topic I'm interested in and I told them, what do you think of this particular thing? And they told me, I don't really have an interest in that. I don't want to talk about that. I'd be like, all right, that's it. There's very few people that if I said that to, that I would actually be bothered by a response like that. And the only people would be, say, my wife or my children. Outside of that, if somebody responds to me in such a manner, I would be just fine. It's polite, it's civil. They're saying they're not interested in telling me or talking to me about something. I would then move on to a different subject. And if they're not interested in talking at all, then I would stop speaking to them and leave them alone. And if there's somebody that I want to pick their brain, I would attempt it at a different time, in which maybe they are more willing to discuss certain subjects. Simple. It's fucking simple. But not to them. Not to them. So you have to mask. So you have to create these illusions. Just to fucking navigate it all. See, I didn't really want to get mad for this one. I didn't mean to get angry for this one. I just wanted to kind of have a thought process, but it's so hard. It's so hard not to get mad. Because there's so much that people expect from you when you don't have the tools, you don't have the capabilities to do this without it being detrimental to your sanity. So to a schizoid, oftentimes we feel like we live in an insane world. Because of all these weird arbitrary rules that exist about how to interact with other humans, which, seem perfectly normal to a lot of people. Sure shit doesn't feel normal to a schizoid. Sure as fucking shit doesn't. It's hard as hell. But anyway, this has gone on long enough, I think. If you have any thoughts on what I had to say, if you think I'm an idiot, if you think I'm wrong, go ahead and list them. Put it in the comments. If you think I'm right, go ahead and tell me. If you have a story of your own, if you're schizoid yourself or avoidant or any other kind of issue you may have, socially, social anxiety, whatever, and you have stories in which, you wish you could just tell people in the most polite way, leave me the fuck alone. Comment. If you bother commenting or liking this or whatever, subscribe. If you know anybody else who's angry or has brought up these sort of topics themselves, tell them about the channel. Tell them to subscribe or whatever. Tell them to comment. It makes this more interesting for me than if I'm just talking to a goddamn wall. So, hopefully next time I can settle down a bit. Unless this is that's probably what people find entertaining. I don't know. Have yourself a wonderful piece of shit day. Thank you.